All right, so I'm going to go to our demos. I need to make, actually, what did I do last? No, we're in Spring. Hopper was the last thing I did. So let me grab the README for that. Okay, I'm going to make a new, sorry I didn't do this beforehand, but it's a good review. So let me make, I want to make a new Spring Boot application. So Control-Shift-P will open up the palette. I think it's called a palette. Spring Initializer, create a Maven project. 2.79 is old enough. We're going to select Java as our language. I'm going to call this just Tyler. And the name is going to be session demo, I guess. Okay, let's choose war, choose my version. I can just use the last used. That way I don't have to remember what the configurations are that I need. So if I just hit enter from there, I'll put this in demos inside of Spring. Yeah. Okay, so that creates my new project. And then I'm going to paste in my README/checklist. Okay, so the first, I'll just change this to session demo. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is update our application properties. Why do we need to do this? What is this configure here?
That's the Spring MVC, the view prefix.
Tells us, basically this tells us, or tells Spring where to look for our templates, right? Yeah, exactly. Tells Spring, hey, this is where we're going to put our templates. So if I click this and copy this, okay, copy from there, copy, paste, there we go. Cool. Next thing I need is a main controller. Now this isn't going to work because this is the wrong route. So if I go back to my README, and if I look at my configuration, I have SRC inside of SRC, inside of main, inside of Java, inside of Tyler, I have session demo, and then main controller is the file that's going to be generated. So all I need to do really is change the name of my project from Hopper to session demo. And now it'll put, it'll generate the main controller in the right place. Does that make sense to everyone? Does that help?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it does. I just wanted to ask you where you have this README MD. I would like to copy also, because I'm always looking on the platform, and everywhere is different pages. So I'm
right. And they they keep updating the platform on me, by the way. If I go to the platform, this Flash data section wasn't here last time I taught the class. So I'm gonna go over this after in the afternoon session because I haven't even looked at it. I just noticed it this morning.
okay. That's like validation.
Yeah, it's like, well, so it's kind of like the when we had the Jinja messages that popped up. So this is the Java version of that. I didn't even know this was a thing until this morning. So but it's kind of a minor detail. But to answer your question, if you go to our schedule, go to GitHub, and if you scroll to the very bottom, I put all my demos. Well, I try to remember to put my demos here. So if you go to the last one I did, which is the Hopper demo.
Okay, we'll be there.
Yeah, the README's here. So if you want to get the actual text of it, you can click on raw right here. And that'll give you the actual markdown code. So you can just come in here, copy this whole thing, and paste it into
My
a
readme.
markdown file. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, cool. So let me get back. That's not the right one. I want to close this. Actually, I'm gonna move it. No, I want to close it. There we go. Okay. So now when I click that link to main controller, it'll at least generate the controller for me. Okay. Now we'll come back to the controller because I'll forget the other stuff. Now we need to update our POM file. So we need to add the dependencies for displaying the JSP and the JSTL tags. So if I click pom.xml, this link will always work as long as you put your checklist or your README inside the root of your project. I'll always take you to the pom.xml. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this and put it carefully inside the dependencies section. So I'm going to copy this and paste it right here. Okay, and I'm also going to get the Bootstrap stuff. Copy that, paste that here. Okay, now notice that my POM file isn't saved. I've got the little dot here that shows me it's not saved. I'll close this for a second. So when I click this file, when I save it, it's going to ask me if I want to synchronize my configurations. Click yes, and everything should automatically be updated for you. Okay, if it doesn't, you can right click pom.xml and click reload project. So if the dependencies for some reason aren't working, that may fix it. Usually though, if you just save the file, it should automatically update your dependencies. Okay. Now if I go back to the README, next thing I need is my index.jsp. So again, this link should work as well. So if I click this, it's going to ask me if I want to create this file. Click create. And then I don't need all the Hopper stuff, but I'm just going to take this, copy it, and paste it. So let me take some of this stuff out. Let's take this out. Cool. Any questions so far? All right, so now if I go to, I can either, again, there's two ways to do this. I can come to the terminal, type in maven clean Spring Boot :run, or if you're just into pushing buttons, just open up the Spring Boot dashboard, go to the session demo. You can click either this play button or this one, and that should start our application.
So we technically don't even have to write the MVN Spring Boot. We just,
you don't have to. That's if you're getting errors and you're trying to debug it and it's like not working, you can run that, and that will definitely clear out any of the classes that have been made in previous builds. So that's sort of like a last ditch. If you keep hitting the play button, it's not working, the Maven clean will throw away all the old stuff and make a fresh copy. Okay, so now if I go to localhost 8080, so this is good news, right? My server's running, but why am I getting this white label error?
you create everything, right? The web app you create?
We'll create a web app, yeah.
Okay.
Needs a mapping.
The what?
Needs a request mapping.
Yeah, I don't have anything in my controller, right? I haven't even designated this as a controller. So basically it's the Tomcat web server's running. It's just I haven't told it what to do, right? I haven't said anything, hey, do this when you see this route. So that's where I need to fill out my controller. What's the first thing I need to do? How do I designate this class as a controller?
At request controller.
So REST controller. So if you're building an API, then you use REST controller, because the REST controller will return either strings or, well, it'll return objects basically. So if we
Just
want
controller.
just controller, exactly. So just plain old controller will designate this as a Spring Boot controller where we're rendering Java files, right? Java or Java's template engine. So we designate this as a controller. Then we need to tell it what to do when it hits a certain route, right? So this is where you can do request mapping, but there's a more precise annotation of get mapping. So that basically is saying that this route, if I go to /, it's going to respond to a get request. Okay, so basically if I go to my browser, refresh, that's making a get request, right? Anytime I do anything, anytime I type anything in my address bar, I'm making a get request. Okay, so once I set up get mapping, I make my method. Okay, and you can make this, if you want to set up your README, you can put this as your default controller. I put this in your notes if you want, which I think oh no, that's from the other assignment. Okay, so now index.jsp looks like this. Let me just put in a smoke signal to see if it worked. Let's see if it's true. All right, so now when I go back here, unbelievable. I can't believe it. I'm always surprised when it works. Okay. Questions so far? All right. So now we want the whole point of this was to be able to use session. Okay. So if I want to put something in session, a little bit more involved, right? I have to actually import the object. So if I just start typing HTTP, can't remember now, there it is. So HTTP session, just hit tab. And it looks like it automatically imported it. I think that's the right one. Yeah. So this is the object. This is the variable, right? So I'm basically declaring a instance of the HTTP session object that I can then utilize in my code. Okay, so now I need to, whatever I want to put in session, I can put in session, right? So I just have to say session dot set attribute, and if I say name equals Richie. Now, just like in Python, this name attribute is available anywhere in our application. So if I go to index.jsp, I can use my dollar curlies. And you're so smart, Richie. Okay. Any questions? All right. Okay, so that's session.